Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Tracey on Trace Elements Radio. And today's Thursday. Yesterday in Ontario, we had a lovely spring day. Today, it's of course changed its mind. It was very exciting though for a couple hours. By yesterday evening, it was cold again. We have so much news, guys, that I can't ignore the news. I would like to ignore the news, but let's do a newsy show today. The bad news. And there is some good news, so don't get depressed on this. Transcanada has the third catastrophic pipeline leak in under 9 months. So, a natural gas pipeline owned by Transcanada ruptured in Benton Harbor, Michigan, causing evacuation of 500 people. This is the third since January this year. Now, okay, I'll just go into it because it ticks me off so much. So approximately 2 a.m. I'll do the lead up for it. 2 a.m. September 16th, 2014, a natural gas line affiliated with Transcanada leaked at or near the 100 block of North Blue Creek Road. Cause of the leak completely unknown. Emergency responders, consisting of local police, so Benton Township, county deputies, Benton Township fire personnel, assisted and evacuated the residents within a 1-mile radius of the gas leak. Traffic was rerouted from this area. No known injuries at that point reported. Authorities conducted air monitoring, but we heard almost nothing. Now, Transcanada pipeline reps were working on shutting off and on or rerouting the natural gas flow from that particular leak. Transcanada had 2 other catastrophic failures in Rocky Mountain House, Alberta, February last year, Manitoba, January. Transcanada is seeking permission to convert parts of the same pipeline that failed in Otterberg to carry distilled bitumen as part of their Energy East pipeline project that will go from Alberta to New Brunswick. That's a huge amount of area. That's most of Canada. Some would say the good part. So up to 90% of its 1.1 billion barrel a day capacity would be exported unrefined. It's completely insane. This goes over the little arable and probably the last arable land that we have. Absolutely horrific. Now here's the good news. The pro-rape legislation group, and I'm going to have to say it, pulls out from the event. In Toronto, Ontario, a group of female boxers were going to attend that event. I would have loved to report on that one. But we have to be excited because there will not be violence. I'm going to pretend to be excited about that because I thought a little bit there should be violence towards that. Seems the jailed Oregon militants, yes, I'm calling them that, have extensive criminal histories, and many aren't actually allowed to carry guns because of it. But you didn't know that, did you? Now I realize that these arrested militia men of Oregon were wearing arms in a state that allows you to open carry, which Americans are cool with, and I don't have to live there, so it goes in the file of not my business. But they have had previous run-ins with the law, a history of protests, which would be enough, really, to give you a criminal record. We know that, so that really means nothing. But the recent filings in federal court in Portland, prosecutors have detailed the criminal histories of 11 people facing felony charges for their involvement in this occupation. Wildlife refuge. And it began January 2nd, continues to drag on this week, no end in sight. So, the men's rap sheet that did not have anything to do with protesting, like I've heard them say, has to do with domestic violence, illegal firearm possession, terrorist threats, resisting arrest, drug crimes. They all have them. Now, this is, of course, according to police reports. Last Tuesday, militia leader Ammon Bundy was arrested on a remote highway in rural Harnett County. Occupation spokesperson Levoy Finnegan was shot and killed by police. A number of high-profile participants in this standoff were taken into custody. Protesters who say they seized these government buildings to protest federal regulations, public land, now face charges for impeding federal officers discharging official duties, which would carry prison sentences. Last week, U.S. Magistrate Stacey Beckerman ordered Ammon and his brother Ryan Bundy and 3 others to remain in custody without bail. Some of the men, including Ammon, have appealed the bail details, and a series of new detention hearings are scheduled this week. I guess that started Tuesday. Prosecutors have cited many of their past offenses, arguing that it would be too dangerous to release them while the file moves forward. Jason Patrick, 43-year-old, Georgia resident, so pretty far from home, and one of the last holdouts at the refuge, faced charges August 2014, making terrorist threats after he threatened to kill everyone inside the Georgia Municipal Court building, according to prosecutors and witnesses there. And if you have any sense whatsoever, you don't say that in the courtroom. Now, Patrick posted bond in that case, was released, agreed, signed the forms not to possess firearms, a condition which he has repeatedly violated. He was photographed, of course, with guns during the occupation. Joseph O'Shaughnessy, 45-year-old Arizona resident, is now facing charges for his role in the occupation, had previously been arrested for disorderly conduct, that could be anything, domestic violence, drug offenses, according to the court records. He has argued that he was not a member of the militia, but was trying to keep the peace at the refuge. there to help. Nothing. Don't even know these guys. He didn't say that, but he might as well be saying that. Brian Cavalier, 44, Nevada man, also not from Oregon. Series of felony convictions that restrict his access to firearms, but nonetheless consistently possessed weapons. He often referred to himself as Ammon Bundy's bodyguard. We have Dwayne Amer, Oregon man, looks like, frequently photographed with his horse at the refuge. Convicted felon, banned from possessing firearms, he too carrying a pistol when he was arrested last week. Prosecutors said that he had recently posted a photo on Facebook with a threatening caption, "The only way to win a war is to kill enough of the enemy that they do not want to fight anymore." He put that on Facebook. Yet another complete idiot. You don't put stuff like that on Facebook. After he was arrested last week, Ryan Payne, 32-year-old Montana man, yet again not from Oregon, claimed to have an absolute duty to prevent federal government from continuing to manage lands, claimed a right to use force to oppose unlawful arrest. Prosecutors said he has been repeatedly involved in armed efforts to oppose federal government, according to records. Pete Santilli, conservative radio host who live-streamed the occupation until his arrest, previously bragged on YouTube about refusing to turn in his guns in violation of a restraining order filed against him. Totally unrelated. Santilli, who is a vocal supporter of the Bundys, has argued he's a journalist covering protests. Ryan Bundy, convicted of obstructing police 2008, again interfered with an arresting officer 2015. Prosecutors wrote in those filings a later case. He had reportedly had to be restrained by 3 court bailiffs attempting to take him into custody on a failure to appear warrant. In arguing against bail for Ammon Bundy, prosecutors cited his repeated social media statements about his resolve to fight. Officials Friday agreed to release Shanna Cox, the one woman arrested at the occupation. She has to wear an ankle bracelet. Relatives of the jailed Bundys said they had little faith the court proceedings in Portland would be fair or the judge would grant the men bail. I understand that. "You're not going to get any justice in federal court," said Carol Bundy, wife of Cliven Bundy, Nevada rancher who led the 2014 standoff with the government, and on Monday called the Oregon occupiers to stand their ground. "They have unlimited power, or feel that they do," she continued. "You go in their court with their laws and their judges, there will be no justice in there." Have to agree. Although Ammon Bundy has said from jail that it is time to continue the fight in the courtroom, his sister, who's 24, said that she wasn't confident that a court battle would accomplish much in the Bundys' fight against federal overreach. "We have to win it out here. If it has been won in court, we wouldn't be here." And again, just another perspective. When we talk about extremists, and I guess we have to at this point, extremists, especially in the United States, although Canada just had a school shooting. We'll get into that later. Now, inside the storefront of a Chinese restaurant, upstate New York, neon sign from a multicolored window sign glowed in the face of an extremist plotting mass murder. He had been seeking backing for his attack at a small establishment in Scotia, was meeting with a man who had agreed to take part in the scheme of building a radiation device. Everything with respiration would be dead by morning. This is how people talk. I understand both sides of this. I understand what the natives are saying about this too. Not your land, not your business, not even close to the place you live. But at this point, really, when we're looking at the devastation of planet Earth, and it gets worse. It gets far worse. So, Tuesday, right after I talked to you guys, the Zika mosquitoes got worse because somebody has sexually transmitted a disease with them. It's interesting because we were talking about when you mess with fertility, I don't care if it's in a bug or what kind of species, something obviously happens. Now, in their incredible drive to, I think, upend this planet, seriously, I'm really thinking about this. I hate to say they're trying to kill us, but they're doing a freaking good job. Aiming to prevent the spread of this mosquito-borne Zika virus, male insects may now be exposed to X or gamma rays to irradiate their sperm. That's what the UN nuclear agency announced on Tuesday. The International Atomic Energy Agency said that the so-called sterile insect technology can help tackle the outbreak that has been declared a global health emergency by the WHO. Experts are set to meet in Brazil February 16th. Now, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador are many, among other states, in the states, that have requested the technology from the UN Atomic Agency. People are asking for it, mostly scientists, of course. I don't think any of us would ask for it. So if Brazil released a huge number of sterile males, it would take a few months to reduce the population. This is their thoughts on this. They did add that there are other methods of fighting dangerous insects that should not be off the table. The method involves exposing laboratory-bred male mosquitoes to nuclear radiation. So that's what they're saying. Making the sperm sterile before the release into the wild to mate with females. See, I thought what we read said they couldn't mate. Apparently they can. But that's not what I read to you Tuesday. So mosquito eggs from this apparently never hatch, helping to reduce the populations of the insects. If they never hatched, it wouldn't reduce the population, it would eliminate it, would it not? apparently they're getting confused between sterilization and not sterilized. Sterilized means 100% to me. So it's basically family planning for insects, which I'm not sure they understand what that means. So this technology has already been tested in several other countries. One of the insect pest control laboratories in Italy, they said it helped to reduce mosquito populations by around 80% in several months. Now, I don't know if that's because there were many other kinds of mosquitoes, if they didn't mate with other kinds of mosquitoes, or if they mean 80% of these mosquitoes who were supposed to be sterile, and it should have been 100%. But moving on. China mosquitoes were defeated by 100%. All mosquitoes? Or these particular mosquitoes? 100% would be what we would expect. Now, the cases of infants born with brain abnormalities with suspected links to Zika. Is it or is it not? But anyway, they've been registered in over 20 Latin American countries, as well as the U.S., starting from late December last year. Nearly 4,000 babies have been born with this congenital condition associated with incomplete brain development in Brazil only. So Monday, WHO declared Zika a global public health emergency. Global. With a move aimed at fast-tracking this. So, genetically modifying these mosquitoes wasn't enough. Now they want to nuke them and see what kind of monster can be developed. Okay. So are people freaking out? Or is it the Zika virus plus the pesticides? We know for a fact that the Zika virus was patented in 1947, which is weird because we didn't think that they had the technology to really have fun with messing with viruses. Well, we know that they had fun in the 50s, but this is DNA stuff. This is deep dish, weird stuff. So, I'm wondering, and you must be wondering too, it can't just be me being paranoid about this. Is this the big one? Now, I realize they normally freak out about every virus. They want us to be vaccinated. We heard a couple nights ago that they already have a pill for the Zika virus. But of course they'd have a pill because this is not new. So a pill didn't surprise me at all. But they're rolling out with a vaccine rather quickly. Now, a bioweapons expert has come out saying not only is this a very specifically engineered disease, which, we told you about, 100% proven it is. It is a bioweapon. And they want to make a monster out of this. This is what I'm concerned about more than anything. That, viruses kill people. I'm not making light of it, but they do. Viruses kill people. People die. When you have a lowered immune system, you die. Some people are old and they die. Some people are very young and they die. Some people just, the right amount of combinations, you die whether you take a vaccine or not. But when they push something, it's almost always followed by the da-da-da sign. Now, Francis A. Boyle has said that Zika is an example of how the United States uses biowarfare against vulnerable populations with complicity of their governments. Wait a minute. 1947, with the rhesus monkey, was the first test of AIDS. That was not made in the United States. It was brought to the United States. Yes, patented in the United States, but it was made in the chemical labs of Germany. So let me go on. As I've been reporting for the last week or so, this disease causes, it's called microcephaly in onboard children. We have pictures. It's so sad. So it continues to gain tones of being really specific, a really specific engineered weapon to spread via mosquitoes. Well, mosquitoes as a transport system are very interesting because even if they're regular, run-of-the-mill mosquitoes, when they suck your blood, if you don't get a chance to smack them, they not only are taking your blood, they on their own are taking a genetic sample. And when they bite you, they are literally infecting you with the blood that they've carried. That's why some people really get a bad reaction to mosquito bites, because, you know, if you're an A blood type and they give you the wrong kind, you get sick. That's why. So if you want to rule the world, if you want to kill everybody, mosquitoes are your men. Wonderful weapon. Way better than anything you can make. Other than, the spraying from the sky seems rather effective, but mosquitoes are the big guys. Now on Monday, international law professor, this Francis A. Boyle, who drafted the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act 1989, said this was a souped up bioweapon. I didn't see it when I was talking about it Tuesday. Now he's saying by United States federal government and non-government organizations, if Boyle's suspicion is true, which this guy has a really long history and usually nails stuff, so we should at least listen to what he has to say. So if his suspicions are true, and he has this strong background in bioweapons, because that's what he used to do, the current outbreak of the disease would be yet another case of the government partnering with non-governmental organizations to produce and spread a disease on vulnerable populations. He says that the Zika virus is now being reinforced by two separate investigative journalists. Well, at least reinforced. This statement, anyway. Other people are looking into this, and I'm really glad, because this is one of them that, like the last outbreak, was pretty darn specific who it attacked and who died from it. Now, one of the journalists is Jerome Corsi, who writes for WND.com. Really good page. Now, Corsi, however, raises another caveat to the Zika virus. He says it could be another case of a disease being spread by illegal immigrants that have entered Latin America, United States, and Europe, whose origin is Africa and the Middle East. Well, the origin of this is Africa, but it's monkey. So unless there's a whole bunch of monkeys, I don't know. I'm leaving it. We'll leave it open. But of course, when you get a new population in any group, this is what always happens. They bring illnesses that you don't have. That's what happened on this continent. That's what's happening now. Other than they're opening prisons and letting rapists come out. Okay, let me hold this one conspiracy theory. We've talked about Europe in many ways, and how it now, in general, has a minus birth rate. I'm not going to say this is right. I'm not going to say this is okay, but I'm suspicious as hell of what's going on there. First of all, it's looking like the numbers of the disappeared children are way more than 10,000. The children that are coming in could be closer to 100,000 children have gone missing all across Europe. They're being reported in larger numbers in places with lower birth rates. Just bear with me for a minute, because this is where I start to sound crazy. So hold my hand. The men that they've let in. And of course I was thinking it's like every takeover, you open the prisons, you open the insane asylums. After you've let in the nice calm people, then you let in the monsters and there's rape. Later today, we're going to go into the strange earthquake events that are going on, the methane gas releases, and that's mostly because the planet is basically, continents are shifting, natural phenomenon, this is what the planet does. But I think the governments, who by the way, released right after my show, that they were meeting to talk about an earthquake symposium, what they're going to do. So I'm thinking that they are planning, and that they know there's going to be a very big earthquake worldwide. I'm thinking on the west of Europe, west of United States, and probably around the Middle East, Hamas area, that's going to be pushing Europe up. Europe has been moving forward, so it's going to be moving up, and then east. That's what this shift looks like, and you can see this movement if you look at maps. Could they be purposely raping the women because of the low birth rate? They don't want you wiped out. I put a report up on Tuesday that officially there is so much sky cover, the global dimming over Europe, that it would be impossible for you to get the right amount of vitamin D. I'm putting all these things together. If you have very low vitamin D, it wouldn't be the GMOs, it wouldn't be a change in diet, it would be that talks about fertility. There are populations, and I know how racist this is going to sound, please forgive me. There are populations on this planet who are stronger physically. they're more resilient to diseases. Browner skin allows you to hold more vitamin D. If there is a catastrophe, more vitamin D allows you and your children to survive, makes you viable. This can be totally crazy. Again, it could be. They could just be raping you because they want you weak. They could let these men in and allowing them to get... No, I can't see any other reason why they would let these guys in and allow them to get away with it and not send them out unless it's a plan specifically to rape women who are not producing children. If there's going to be a devastation, we need more kids. They shouldn't be pushing more kids if their idea is to kill us. You see where my mind's going? And then there's the missing children. Now you probably say, if they wanted the kids, they'd go to their homeland, just steal them. So they would just steal them if this was for rape. But what are they doing? They're bringing them up, registering them, and then taking them. Registering them, probably going through their medical files, and I bet you it's the healthy kids they're taking, the strongest ones. Probably around 3 to 7. You wouldn't want much older. Unless they're looking for certain traits. I know this is one of my weirder ideas, but there is no need to take children in these numbers, making it at least obvious enough that some of us are going, hey, that's too weird. Unless they want the children held there for after. Maybe they're taking them to bunkers. They're not showing up in hospitals. They're not showing up in places like orphanages. So those children are being taken somewhere. It can't just be for a rape. You got children there. If they wanted those specific children for rape, they'd go down there, and that's it. It's almost like they're trying to make it official by bringing them up, registering them. You know what I mean? You following me? Unless this is kind of going to a plan, again, that I saw in that really strange miniseries. They didn't do the children part of it, but it's kind of a combination of something interesting I saw on the first and second X-Files that made me question, and that really obscure UK show, Utopia, and a couple of the other moves that are happening right now look like this planet is getting ready to pull something horrendous. And they know. They absolutely know. They know what's going on. All of these things. Perhaps even the move for sovereignty, because I was speaking about this years ago. That they're kind of pushing, the governments are kind of pushing towards sovereignty. They don't want to take care of you anymore. And the reason they haven't just got us all off the dole is I think they're preparing for something. Now, in a bulletin published on the website of Centers for Disease Control, Atlanta. Now, it was last updated last year, January 25th, 2015. CDC acknowledged then the transmission of the Zika virus in the United States is expected to increase. I didn't hear anything about this last year. I wasn't looking for it specifically, I hadn't heard. But not only from travelers returning from certain areas, Central and South America, including Brazil, Caribbean, Mexico, but they said also through mosquitoes all over the country in the United States. Now this Monday, WHO declared Zika an outbreak, a health emergency linked to thousands of birth defects. WHO Director General Margaret Chan told reporters that coordinated international action was needed to improve detection, expedite work on a vaccine, better diagnosis for the disease, but also it was time to curb travel, perhaps even trade. She says to herself, questioningly. Now, Professor Boyle, the declared issue by WHO is a direct recommendation, the CDC of the United States, which he says is an organization with nefarious intentions. We don't believe anyone should be traveling to Latin America until we know exactly what is going on there and what is going on here. Now, he's in the United States, and this is what he said, I guess, on the Alex Jones show. Boyle explained that given the fact that Zika can now be transmitted via sexual intercourse, demonstrate we have in our hands biowarfare. Another characteristic that points to Zika being genetically engineered is the fact that it actually is genetically engineered. I showed you the patent. Now, it can also be transmitted through the saliva. Someone asked me that a couple nights ago, and I wasn't sure, but yes, it can. So it's official announcement. WHO stated that in assessing the level of threat, 18 experts and advisors looked in particular at strong association in time and place between the infection of the Zika virus, the rise of detected cases of congenital malformations and neurological complications. WHO admitted indirectly there is no scientific connection between the mosquito that transmits this virus and the thousands of cases of harmed children. But he said it's not a good idea to wait for proof in this case. Can you imagine if we do all this work now, wait until scientific evidence comes out, then people will say that you didn't take the action. So last week, Boyle reminded the audience that Harvard and MIT were 100% responsible for the Ebola outbreak that killed thousands of people last year. In the same way, there are similar organizations involved with this spread. United States government has spent $100 billion in research of bioweapons since 9/11, 2001. It's very clear that the United States government is running an offensive, a biological weapons program, no matter what they say they're doing. So this is population control and reduction. Plain and simple. This is genetically targeted, but it seems to be not what's happening in Europe. So Brazil, they said, try not to get pregnant. They've explained, because, there's athletes coming there. They wanted to cancel. They're trying now to cancel the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, where we are going to bring our strongest, our finest physical specimens, and people wealthy enough to go down there. That's a real problem. They said if you're pregnant, 100% don't go. As far as I'm concerned, even if there's a slim chance that this crap is real, safe than sorry, right? Now, according to WHO, and this is the reason they're giving, a lack of vaccines, reliable diagnosis tests, as well as the absence of population immunity in the newly affected countries were factors. And this is why they're saying it's an emergency. I don't know. I'm thinking they should have all the immunity because they have a lot of mosquitoes. A lot of them are at least part African, you know. But it's important to remember the existence of the National Security Memorandum 200. A document produced by Kissinger, billion-year-old man, in the Department of Defense. The paper states that it was the intention of the United States government to study the impact of population growth until the year 2000. At that point, the goal of the study was to provide solutions to the negative effect that population growth might present to American interests. So doesn't that sound a little diabolical? Two agendas at once? Do you think? There seems to be some very different things going on. Don't you think? Now we know for a fact this just happened. Well, about an hour ago. This could be all the setup for something else. This is why I'm bringing this in here. Representatives from 12 different countries, nations, officially signed that TTP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, that agreement in Auckland, New Zealand. The date, February 4th, New Zealand time, noteworthy because it's 90 days after the official text was even released. There was a 90-day clock that was required between releasing the text and before the U.S. could actually sign the agreement. The stated purpose of this 90-day clock was in order to allow debate about agreement. However, the entire agreement was negotiated in secret. U.S. officials treating the text of the document as if it was a national security secret, unless you were an industry lobbyist, of course. Now, so as to the nod to pretend transparency, there is a problem that nothing would be signed for 90 days after the text was actually released. So, did you guys hear a debate? No, it didn't happen. The TPP was barely mentioned at all by the administration in the last 90 days, but they have spent a lot of time throwing thing after thing, stuff after stuff. So perhaps you won't talk about this. Or that this is to get something else ready. To prepare for something else. To have laws set up in order for this. Now, even during that State of the Union, Obama breezed past the TPP with a quick comment, even though it's supposedly a defining part of his legacy. There's been no debate. There was never any intent I think, for actual debate. That 90-day clock was just something that was put into the process so that the USTR and the White House could pretend that there was more transparency, or to hide what this thing actually was, and that they wouldn't sign the agreement till after it was looked at, understood by the public. And of course, signing is a totally meaningless bit of theater. The real fight is over ratification. The various countries that needed to ratify the agreement to go into effect. Technically, the TPP will enter into force 60 days after all the signers ratify it. If that doesn't happen within 2 years, if at least 6 of the 12 countries ratify it, those 6 countries account for 85% of combined domestic product of the 12 countries. Got that? In short, this means that if the U.S. doesn't ratify it, the TPP is dead. The U.S. needs the majority of both houses of Congress to approve it, similar to the typical bill. Okay, we'll take a little break. We'll go on about this, because this may be how they're, I don't know, going to save us, or they're trying to kill us, or I don't know. Welcome back, everyone. I was asleep at the wheel. So, Canada has signed this deal. Our trade minister signed on behalf of Canada, basically. The tariffs on Canadian products in 11 other of the markets basically eliminated or dramatically reduced in the next 15 years. The signing countries are Japan, Australia, Malaysia, New Zealand, Singapore, Vietnam, Brunei, and then Canada's existing free trade partners, U.S., Mexico, Chile, Peru. And I'll do a whole show on that if you guys would like, and tell you what this does. But it makes us, long story short, global government through our real rulers, companies, businesses. Hold that thought. This is why I think they're doing this. Scientists made a startling discovery on a flight over Chile. 337 dead whales. That is the biggest single stranding known to science ever. Now, because of the remoteness of the area and the roughness of the sea, scientists have not been able to determine or examine them directly. Satellite photography identified 305 bodies and 32 skeletons in an area between the Gulf of Pinas and Puerto Natales. So it's the southern tip of the continent. Their remains were in advanced decay. It's unclear what species they are specifically. Endangered, though, throughout its range. If it's the SEI whales, because they're large, they're bluish gray whales that filter water to feed on krill and other small creatures. "30 of them were stranded in the same area last April. So that's why they're thinking the same ones. They may have been killed by red tide, but they're not sure. Science is trying to figure this out, of course. 15 years ago, some 600 gray rails were stranded in North American Pacific coast from Alaska to Mexico, but that occurred over a vast area, over a longer span of time. The whales were very close together. Nearly 200 whales were stranded in New Zealand this February. If these were just isolated incidents, I would say it's nothing. But then we have the Alaska Dispatch News, January 29th. Scientists think the Gulf of Alaska seaboard die-off, or seabird, is the biggest ever recorded. The mass deaths of seabirds have washed up on Alaska beaches in the past months is unprecedented in size and scope and duration. A federal biologist said the staggering die-off is a signal that something is wrong in the Gulf of Alaska. A supervisory wildlife biologist, an Alaskan Maritime National Wildlife Refuge, he concedes with the widespread deaths of other marine animals, from whales in the Gulf of Alaska to sea lions in California. Common whales, and not only the Gulf of Alaska marine animals, are falling victim to ailments too. There's an 8-fold increase in sea otter deaths. Sea stars in 2015 were both stricken with that wasting disease. They melted, guys. Beaches are littered with carcasses now, especially around the barren islands. And it's usually teeming with life right now. And it's nobody's home. In more than 3 decades of monitoring, people are saying they've never seen or had a complete reproduction failure. Now, January 2006 again. This is from the USGS, and it was released, January. During March through September last year, at least 25 seabird mortality events were reported across Alaska. The primary aviation species reported included common moors, I'm not sure, M-U-R-R-E-S, kittiwaks, puffins, do you know those ones? Gulls, sarwatchers. Some of the avian mortalities were concurrent with the whales, the sea otters, and the other fish mortalities. If it was just that, again, I would say, it's just one of those things. We're having strange events. Yesterday here, it was so warm that I sat outside in a t-shirt. And by the evening, I needed a coat. It looks like wildlife is completely disappearing. Now again, we have that massive LA gas disaster. Residents say it's completely quiet with birds and butterflies and rabbits. Coyotes are missing. All fish in some ponds are dead. All of it gone. So, January 18th, a Porter Ranch residents report unexplained ailments, behaviors in pets. Family lost all 20 of their brightly colored koi fish after they started dying. Others have noticed fewer birds, and alarmingly quiet wildlife sightings. Now, parents of 5 are saying they are now living a nightmare. Her pride and joy was her garden, her koi fish. Again, she cries and recounts how they just died suddenly, that there are no birds, there are no butterflies, there is just silence. They said that they used to see coyotes, other animals. They're gone. So from the LA Daily News, residents have noticed fewer birds and wildlife sightings. Again, pets are all ill or completely disappearing in the wildlife. Birds, rabbits, can't find them. One lady said that her dog had quickly become lethargic, threw up about 20 times in an hour. At the vet hospital, that was full, by the way, said it's the worst blood work that the vet had ever seen. But the sound of birds is completely lost. In late December, he said the absence had made their home completely quiet. They'd always been there, and they are now just gone. Crazy, eh? Now, the LA disaster. It looks like they have completely lost control of this entire field. And there are other leaks. Officials are saying that this is a mini Chernobyl. Out of control, seriously underestimated. Now again, from the Porter Town Ranch meeting, the town hall meeting, which I was really wanted to hear, but I missed it. That it's kind of simple at this point. If you have a well blowout, you quit injecting more gas. I would think. You certainly would stop doing it underground, but nobody ordered a stop to this. Now this lawyer sent a letter to stop the leak, asking them to stop all injections. They haven't. Why? Again, I know what it looks like, that they're really trying to wipe you guys out. Us guys, because I'm up here too. I'm on this continent. It's scary. This is not an accident. It can't be. But what they didn't tell us is there are 15 wells leaking. 15. They don't know why it happened. They don't know how it happened, but it happened all at the same time. So SoCalGas lost control entirely of the entire field, and it's leaking everywhere. If it's a coincidence, then it's a coincidence. But this is strange. This is the loudest and the largest gas leak, natural gas leak in history. And I guess just yesterday that they're hearing loud sounds of gas escaping, really loud, that you can hear from a half a mile away. In The Guardian, January 11th, residents attack a slow response, a mini Chernobyl. On the 15th, from the same Guardian, seriously underestimated this. Now, if it's been out of control for more than a month, and there's nothing they can do to stop it, this is a big deal. Now, what I've talked to you about before, and this is why I'm wondering if all of these things are tied together. If there's some sort of plate tectonic movement that they know is happening, that seems to me at least a possibility, if not completely obvious. Why would they not just, well, obviously, they wouldn't just say. They're not going to say, by the way, what are they going to say? We're out of control? There's nothing we can do? We can't stop this global change that's happening? And the strangest, this has to be, okay, up there, because we have a lot of strangeness. But there's this one. Happened on the 2nd, so 2 days ago. Something turned Iqaluit Nunavut pink, then rose. Once on January 13th in the afternoon on the ground. And now there's a strange rose hue in this Arctic city. Residents have no idea. And here's some of the theories. You have to remember they have a strange sense of humor. You get that far north and you get a laugh. Different. Ziggy Stardust? Could it be because of bad glasses? However, the likely answer for this strange coloration isn't about pop icons or eyewear. It's rooted in how light reflects in the atmosphere. It's red sky, pink sky, I don't know, result of light scattering. Sunlight is reflected through particles in the atmosphere. The coloring is also intensified by the time of day when the photo is taken near sunset, when the sun is lower. But I'm sorry, they've said they've never seen it before. We know that the sun, at least when the sun is at a low angle, the light has a longer distance to travel. The blue gets removed from ice crystals, salt in the water, which leaves red. Clouds are much larger than light waves, of course. It allows them to take on the color, in this case pink. But I don't know, guys. If it was just one thing, again, I'd say okay. They're probably just trying to kill us. Why are they taking the children? Why are they not taking the children from their home but moving them to a new location and taking them? You have kids. And since 1990, natural disasters have constantly increased, affected more than 500 million people a year. Insane? You think? And natural disasters continue to increase. Geological disasters like earthquakes and volcanoes and rockfalls and landslides and avalanches have stayed more or less constant. But the number of climate-related disasters like floods, coastal flooding, storm surge, apocalyptic storms like big ones, heat waves, cold waves, cyclones, droughts, wildfires, dramatically increased. You'd be surprised to know that Earth Changes was actually introduced by Edgar Cayce to refer to a belief that the world would soon enter a series of catastrophic, cataclysmic events, causing major alterations in human life on the planet. Earth changes include natural events like earthquakes, melting cycles, polar ice caps, pole shift, planetary axis, major weather events, solar flares, and other amazing and yet frightening phenomena. Earth changes also comprises huge changes of local and global social, economic, political systems. This is why I'm looking at it. Because the U.S. sinkhole map alone, we could look at them all over the world. My God. Around 40% of the U.S. lies in areas that are prone to sinkholes. Fracking and drinking water. If you looked at these that I do have on the page, it looks like 40% of your water is not safe to drink. What about the zombie apocalypse? Do you remember when the coffin-shaped sinkholes showed up in Gravesend Cemetery? It's kind of the name, too. Strange, mysterious geological formations going on. Germany's flood. It's crazy what's going on. The fault lines in the U.S. You'll find most of the nuclear reactors are along those fault lines, by the way. U.S., Canada. Now, something good. Do you remember those little scrub, just the little scrubbers, copper ones that your grandma used to buy? If you buy those again, you can use that to not only detoxify your water, it energetically charges it. In most of the prepper sites, one of the most inexpensive ways to clean your water is with coal. We've talked about the healing properties of copper as well. So I'm putting the two together. Simple, easy way. Now, I study the Kesh stuff. A lot of it can be super complicated and it uses toxic materials. I don't. If you buy one of those $2 little, the pure copper ones, make sure it's pure copper. If you start a fire, you can actually even do this on a flat stovetop. Heat the one side, throw it in cold water. You keep doing this back and forth and back and forth. You will see that it starts turning black. What you're doing is coating it with a coal. He calls it a nanomaterial. Doesn't matter what it is. If you actually put it out in a fire, it's even better. Even on the barbecue. Put it out there, wait for it to turn black. Take it and throw it in cold water. Let it dry. You'll find that the stuff starts or stops shedding, even on your hands. Let that dry out. You use that. Filter your water through that. You're good. Simple, easy peasy. Now, we're not only having earth disasters. Throughout the 20th and 21st century, hundreds of thousands of people worldwide are reporting this low-frequency pulsating noise, known now as the hum. More and more people are talking about it. Many have described it as sounding like a heavy diesel engine idling in the distance. To others, it raises through the frequency range, something a higher pitch, kind of a buzz. This has been going on since the 50s. People have talked about this, a humming, throbbing. It depends, because most people can't hear it. As a matter of fact, it's supposed to be only 10% of the people in an area hear it. Now, approximately 2% of people in hum-prone, this is lower than I thought. 2% of people in these areas that are hum-prone even hear it. 2%. The hum. Vancouver, Canada. Windsor, Canada. Both, one's in Ontario, In Europe, too, Asia. Auckland, New Zealand. The humming spots include Bristol, England, Taos, New Mexico, North America, Bondi, Sydney, Australia, Large, Scotland, of course, Windsor, Vancouver. They have no idea. There are all kinds of theories about it. But it's a guess. No one knows for sure what that is, why it's increasing. It's one of the 10 unexplained phenomenon, the Big 10. And though it may sound like a minor inconvenience, many people say this hum is causing a massive negative effect. Headaches, nausea, dizziness, joint pain, nosebleed, sleep loss. For some people it has been enough to drive them insane and they kill themselves. The hum is happening all across of the north of Canada. Suicide rates in the last 3 months has skyrocketed. Now these are from the news. People are talking about this worldwide. But there's one place that I talked to you about in Britain that people are doing the same as they're doing in Canada. Interesting about this one place in Britain, this one place in the north in Canada, highest population of MS. Not getting enough sun could not cause this. They don't know. But whatever it is lowering our immune system, making us crazy. Now we know that a lack of vitamin D lowers your immune system. It could put you on edge. Is it making people hear things? I don't know. That's not even the mysterious booms. The strange sky phenomenon. That can't be the same thing. Unless some animals act like they're hearing a sound before an earthquake. The one place in Britain is on the west coast. That looks like it's going to have an earthquake. Could be completely wrong about this, guys, but there's so much strangeness going on that at least we keep an eye out. If you have an earthquake in your area and you've never had them before, I'd like to know, because I'm not sure if they're going for the big mass, let's kill everyone on the planet, or they're strategically moving us. I don't know. I really don't know. But when we look at the earth changes and the strange things that they're coming out and telling us, even factory farms too. And I'm just trying to show you how much the environment is stressed here, because there are lies and more lies and more lies. GMO, poison agriculture, toxic scientific rants. Are they doing this just to kill us? Or are they doing this because the plants won't grow anymore? Think about it. And have you read all those pro-GMO science come lobbyist guys saying they love science? It can't just be that. I can't believe it. There's got to be a reason behind this. They just don't go willy-nilly. They need us to think up ideas. We're the ones who think up the ideas. It's not the king. It's not the president. It's not space aliens. I really don't think it is. We're the ones who think up the ideas. We're the ones who build the boats. We're the ones who sail them. We're the ones who put these things in order. They can't kill us all. And why all of a sudden And it's been well documented that there is a pro-GMO lobby. That distorts the truth. It distorts science, captures regulatory bodies, attacks scientists whose findings are unpalatable, bypasses proper scientific and regulatory procedures altogether. This TTP will bypass all of that. And again, either the food is so, nutrient deficient. Let's put it that way. You know, it's making me sick. I can no longer even digest it. I have to have fermented food just to digest my food. So, they're planning something. Don't you think? They're planning something. It's not okay. When we look at pollution, and of course they'll say it's all our fault. It's the plastic in the ocean killing everything. But the factory farming itself, the way we farm, is what's killing the water, believe it or not. Look at the United States alone. I'm just looking at you guys because, you're right here. Around 27 billion animals are raised for food each year. These animals, and it's pretty much the same all over, live in extreme confinement. They live in fear and pain. The cruelty these animals experience is rather well known. It's understood. But the negative environmental impact that raising these many animals causes is not talked about. They would rather blame us for the plastic than talk about how we farm impacts our very water. Because factory farming impacts the environment. And it's killing our water. Animals raised for food produce 130 times more waste than an entire human population combined. That's nuts. When you concentrate these animals in massive factory farm facilities, it's incredibly difficult to keep these giant facilities clean. So then you have to use massive amounts of water to run the flushing systems that clean excrement off the floors of dairy farms. 150 gallons of water per cow every day. The majority of water used in factory farms does not go even towards hydrating the animals. It goes to cleaning, goes to processing. Once this water is polluted with animal waste and blood, it is also polluted with antibiotics, hormones, bacteria. Why do they give them antibiotics, hormones, bacteria? Well, bacteria they're going to have because of the craft food. And antibiotics. You can't raise more than 3 cows together in the way we raise them now, unless they're walking around. They get this disease, and even the walking around, free range, if you want to call it, cows, get this bacteria. So they basically shit themselves to death. You must give them antibiotics. Their immune system are so destroyed. And look, this waste ends up being stored in massive open-air lagoons that sometimes stretch the length of several football fields. These cesspools are not ironclad. They are not spill-proof. they are prone to leaks. Some farmers also routinely drain their cesspools by spraying the waste on neighboring lands. Between these two factors, there is a extremely high likelihood that the factory farm waste will end up in your local water supply. When this happens, the excess nitrogen and phosphorus from manure cause massive algae blooms that take all the water's oxygen, killing all the marine life. These high levels of toxins found in farm animal waste has been noted in domestic water supplies that pose a serious risk to public health. Although factory farms produce an enormous amount of waste, enormous amount of pollution, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council, they are largely exempt from any air and water pollution regulations. So to get an idea of what sort of damage they are doing to our water supply, let me lay a couple facts on you. Only 45% of factory farms have discharge permits to drain the waste from their cesspools, but it's estimated 75% of the farms contribute to pollution unregulated. Animal waste contains concentrations of pathogens, Salmonella, E. coli, Cryptosporidium. That means it's bugs. Crypto, it's a bug. So it can be up to 10 to 100 times higher with those goodies than human waste. More than 40 diseases can be transferred to humans through manure, polluted waterways. And of course, with the fun we're having with mosquitoes, who knows what genetically they're doing to us? We don't know. Now, according to the EPA, manure is also a source of salts, heavy metals, as well as antibiotics, pesticides, hormones. These things that I'm telling you here could be some of the reason why we're having lower birth rates in certain areas of the world. The more money you have, the more you're doing this crap. Poor you are, you don't do this, so you still have babies. The water may be crap from the fracking and, the raping of our planet that's going on, but when people aren't super rich, they're most likely not doing this. Between 25 to 75% of antibiotics pass into animal manure unchanged. So the presence of antibiotics in the water leads to, surprisingly, superbugs. You would think the antibiotics would clean the water out. It would be bug-free. Opposite happens. Absolutely opposite. Nature finds a way. And right now it's finding a way, I think, to make us sterile. Ammonia, toxic form of nitrogen that occurs during waste disposal, carried more than 300 miles through the air before being dumped back in the water, where it causes algae blooms, kills the fish. This may be the reason for the die-off, or, again, methane. Toxic algae blooms not only deplete the water of oxygen, but cause skin irritation, soft-turn memory loss, cognitive problems in people. Human and animal health can be impacted by nitrogen in animal manure. Nitrogen is easily transformed into the nitrate form, and if transported to drinking water sources, it can result in fatal blue baby syndrome. Baby stop breathing. This could be a lot of the SIDS that's going on right now. Stillbirths by nitrogen. Hormones used in animal agriculture can be passed through manure into the water, where they cause reproductive problems in fish and frogs. And we're a little bit fishy-froggy. So these hormones cannot be filtered out of the water. There's no way to filter them out of the water. So of course they're being passed along to us. More money, more this happens. Agriculture contributes in part to the impairment of at least 170,750 miles of rivers. $2,417,801 lake acres, 1,824 estuary straight miles just in the United States. Animal waste accounts for the large proportion of this pollution. Now that's not what's happening with the earth changes, of course, and I've got that. But it could be part of the things that are stressing us physically, don't you think? Because we are stressed physically. We're also having very strange sky events. Fireball over northwest U.S., also northeast U.S. last night. Meteor fireball strikes over the skies of southern Wisconsin, U.S. You're getting nailed in the last 24 hours. Fireball burns South Georgia skies. Eyewitnesses describe, or at least suggest, 12 missing Marines aboard 2 downed helicopters off of Hawaii were taken out by a meteor explosion. Fireball / meteor something disintegrated over Lviv, Ukraine. A meteor fireball was observed over the Mediterranean Sea, 19th. Bright meteor fireball lights up the evening sky in Finland. I put up a picture that looked like the hand of God. This fireball cloud that appeared over Portugal, January 25th. Something is going on. Very, very controversial debate, too, of some of the things that are going on. Meteorites. Meteorites that could have caused things that are going on. You know, when we go back to the biblical scholars cited such catastrophes as Noah's flood to explain geological oddities as marine fossils on top of mountains. These early catastrophes tended to ignore evidence that went against their Bible interpretation, but it's something we need to look at. In other words, well, obviously they're not very scientific. So geologists are trained to tread very lightly whenever events are being called on to explain geological features. The trouble is, of course, there are some things like the upheaval dome, which we will go into, which, as we know it, are genuine creations of the extraordinary. non-biblical, but catastrophic events. Catastrophes. And speaking of catastrophes, then, and since, and future, take a look at the giant fireball impact in Peru that upends most of the meteorite theories. How meteorites even made it to Earth. Scientists determined that a fireball, or at least one, was a stony meteorite, a fragile type of long thought to have ripped into pieces, entered the Earth's atmosphere, and then leaves little more than a whisper. Yet, the stony meteorite that struck Peru survived its passage, mostly intact. But this isn't what they would expect. Things are completely inconsistent of what our scientists say is happening. We're involved in a cosmic turkey shoot. And cults and comets have a tendency to go hand in hand. I don't know why. It's weird. It's weird for sure. Now, the awareness of possibility of large impact events on Earth. When we go back to June 30th, 1908, Siberia, obviously things start striking us. What is the difference between now and then? There's more of us. This we know. We've stressed the planet to the point that she may no longer be able to sustain us. I know that sounds... People think that you can use this planet in any way you want for as long as you want. But when a 6.7 magnitude earthquake strikes India's northeast in a place that's so overcrowded, we need to pay attention to these things. I don't want to say this civilization is unraveling, but if we're sick, and our animals are sick, and the weather is different, now of course we go through cycles. We always have. That's not a new thing. And that's what I think we're going through now. It's a cycle. You understand? With me. But perhaps it's a really ancient cycle. One that changes everything as we know it. They put more and more buffoons in front of your face, so we're going to be looking at them and talking about who's the biggest idiot. Well, okay, that's me. I'm the one who usually calls them idiots. But things that are happening, I don't believe in accidents. We have to take these things together. Don't we? Put them together and throw them on the table after looking at them and say, why? Women being raped in a place that is now officially infertile. As a matter of fact, most places in Canada and the United States too are way beyond what they would have called infertile 50 years ago. Hormone levels in women and men are so off the charts right now that the majority of men today wouldn't pass as male, hormonally speaking, 100 years ago. They'd look at that and go, what? Yes, plastics. So a lot of that is DuPont. A lot of our food, what we're eating. But it can't just be they wanted to kill us because there's faster ways to do this. So, I ask you, and we'll present more stuff about this next week, and more events, strange as they are, because our connection here, though a lot of people don't seem to feel it, when our planet's in trouble, the animals react, you should be reacting. You should feel it. You should. You should know when something's about to happen in your area. You should know the day before an earthquake. You should feel when your neighbor is sick. We can't do that because we're having so much problems connecting on our planet. If we're having problems connecting on our planet, it's because we are no longer what we were. And we can be. It's really hard. I'm fighting for my life right now. And I know I'm not alone. I really do. I think the majority of us are just trying to keep it together. When we look at the elites, we must realize that we're the ones who build their stuff. They're a couple guys. We're mighty. We're the reason why they're in power. The only reason. So, I want you to think about it and have a nice weekend. And I will talk to you soon.